Welcome to this explainer. If you've been relying on the exact same old advice to stay in shape, you might actually be accelerating the aging process without even realizing it. Today, we're diving straight into the hard, clinical data to completely dismantle the biggest myths about aging, weight loss, and fitness, specifically for men over 65. Let's get right into it.
So, what really is the best way to lose fat and stay healthy after 65? For decades, the default medical advice for older men has just been, hey, walk more or do more cardio. If your doctor told you to lose weight for your heart, chances are you immediately jumped on a treadmill. But as we're going to see from the latest medical research, optimizing your health as you age actually requires a radically different approach. And this brings us to a huge divide. We really need to break away from that traditional cardio-only mindset. That old view is completely fixated on the bathroom scale, but unfortunately, it leads to massive muscle loss and a much higher risk of physical frailty down the road. The clinical reality, which the data fully backs up, is that combining cardio with resistance training or weights is the real game changer. It focuses on dropping fat, preserving the muscle you already have, and ultimately protecting your long-term independence.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start by rethinking exercise over 65. Then define sarcopenic obesity, see why resistance training wins out, explore the multi-component exercise solution, and wrap up with your weekly action plan.
Section 1. Rethinking exercise over 65. The myth of the treadmill.
Get a load of this data. According to a major 2018 study in obesity reviews that followed over 150 sedentary adults, if you are only doing cardio to lose weight, a staggering 25% of what you lose is actually lean muscle mass, a full quarter. This is known as sarcopenic weight loss. Sure, you might weigh less on the scale, but you are literally burning away the exact structural tissue your body needs to stay active as you get older.
Section 2. What is sarcopenic obesity? The silent thief of independence.
This dangerous loss of muscle brings us to the true villain here, sarcopenic obesity. Basically, as guys hit their 50s and 60s, hormonal shifts, like a drop in androgens, trigger this brutal double whammy. You simultaneously lose critical skeletal muscle mass while gaining adipose tissue, specifically that deep, visceral belly fat. It creates that dreaded skinny fat state. You might not even look severely overweight in your regular clothes, but biologically, your body's composition is shifting towards severe physical frailty.
To put a number on this, and honestly, it's a pretty terrifying one, clinical data shows that after age 60, your muscle mass naturally declines by 3 to 6% every single year if you don't actively intervene. That's not just some cosmetic issue. That is a rapid decay of your body's structural foundation.
And losing this muscle does a lot more than just change how you look in the mirror. It totally tanks your resting metabolism and compromises your bone density. Eventually, this biological shift makes simple everyday tasks, like climbing a flight of stairs or even just standing up out of a deep chair, incredibly difficult. And that kicks off a vicious cycle. It drives inactivity, which drives more weight gain, trapping you in a loop. Active resistance training is literally the only way to break it.
Section 3. Why resistance training wins. Your biological armor.
Now that we know what we're up against, let's look at a fascinating randomized trial out of Duke University. They tracked overweight adults for 6 months across 3 different groups. The cardio-only group lost more total scale weight, sure, but their resting metabolism actually dropped by 2% and their muscle preservation was terrible. But the weights-only group? They superbly preserved their muscle and actually boosted their resting metabolism by 3%. Then you have the combined group, who saw the most actual fat loss at 3.4 kilograms. So if your goal is actual health and function, not just a smaller number on a scale, weights are absolutely non-negotiable.
The secret sauce behind that incredible metabolic boost is something called EPOC, or excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. That's just the clinical term for a massive afterburn effect. When you lift weights, your body has to spend a ton of energy repairing that muscle tissue for up to 48 hours after your workout is over. Meaning, you are literally burning extra calories while you're just sitting on the couch recovering.
You can clearly see this EPOC effect play out with the numbers. A 30-minute run burns around 300 calories during the session, but gives you a measly 40-calorie afterburn. On the flip side, 30 minutes of weights might burn slightly less during the actual workout, around 200 calories, but it generates a massive 150-calorie post-workout burn. Plus, every single new kilogram of muscle you build burns an extra 13 calories a day, completely at rest. Over the course of a year, weights win the calorie game by an absolute landslide.
But wait, it goes way beyond just muscle and metabolism.
The LITO trial, which looked specifically at obese, elderly adults, revealed that those on cardio-only weight loss plans lost 2.6% of their hip bone density. That severely raises your fracture risk. But the folks doing resistance training, they almost completely preserved their bone density, seeing only a tiny fraction of a percent decline. If you want to prevent devastating falls as you age, weights are quite literally your biological armor.
Section 4. The multi-component exercise solution, the gold standard.
So, lifting weights alone is incredible, but what happens when we optimize the whole formula? A massive Frontiers Network meta-analysis makes the hierarchy crystal clear. Resistance training on its own is the absolute king for improving grip strength and stopping muscle loss. But what they call multi-component training, intentionally mixing weights with aerobic cardio, is the undisputed champion for dropping your BMI, lowering your body fat percentage, and totally reversing physical frailty.
To get those superior results, the clinical recommendation is all about a perfectly balanced exercise portfolio. Think of it like investing your time. You want to split your weekly training volume right down the middle. Aim for roughly 50% resistance training to get that muscle protein synthesis going, and 50% aerobic exercise to boost your cardiorespiratory fitness and lipid metabolism.
The magic word here is synergy. By combining the vascular health benefits of cardio with the structural power of weights, older adults in the LITO trial improved their real-world physical capacity by an astounding 21%. That completely blew the cardio-only and weights-only groups out of the water. Basically, getting out of bed, playing with your grandkids, or carrying heavy groceries literally becomes 21% easier.
Section 5. Your weekly action plan. Putting it into practice.
Let's translate all this dense medical data into something you can actually do this week. Based on guidelines from the CDC and the American College of Sports Medicine, here is the evidence-based weekly matrix. It revolves around 2 45-minute full-body resistance sessions, say Mondays and Thursdays, to build that biological armor. You intersperse those with 2 30-minute moderate steady-state cardio sessions, like brisk walking or cycling, for heart health. The rest of the week, active recovery. You have to ensure your muscles have the downtime they need to actually grow and repair, because remember, muscles grow during rest, not during the workout.
And the best part is, you don't even need a fancy gym membership for this. You can literally start right at home with some resistance bands or adjustable dumbbells, which is great if your joints are feeling a bit tender. Focus heavily on functional, lower body movements like squats or just practicing standing up from a chair, because our legs are where we lose the most muscle. Add in your moderate aerobic activity, and whatever you do not forget to prioritize your protein intake and your sleep. As we get older, recovery is just as important as the effort you put in.
To wrap all this up, I love this quote because it perfectly captures the core message of the clinical trials. Strength training is the most effective, healthiest weight loss strategy for adults. Period. It isn't just for 20-something bodybuilders. It is literally the fundamental clinical strategy for aging men who want to keep their vigor and metabolic health intact. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought. Now that you understand the hidden, silent dangers of sarcopenic obesity and the undeniable power of a multi-component exercise plan, how are you going to choose to train? Are you going to stay stuck on that cardio-only treadmill, slowly burning away your muscle? Or will you pick up the weights and secure your physical independence for decades to come? The data is crystal clear, but the choice is absolutely yours. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and here's to training smarter.